Thank you for joining us for the fiscal year 21 through 24 Rural Transportation Improvement Program for Jack County's public meeting. My name is Sarah Finch. I am a planner for TxDOT Fort Worth District. This meeting will be recorded, and feel free to use the question and answer and chat functions of the WebEx. Your questions and comments will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation. I will now turn the presentation over to our Advanced Transportation Planning Director.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you all for those people who managed to find time to join us this morning. Really, I'm very excited to go over this PowerPoint presentation and provide you with some information regarding the Rural Transportation Improvement Program for TxDOT. It's usually a journey or a trip we make every other year out there to our rural portion of the state. We go to Jack County, we go to Mineral Wells, we go to Stephenville to conduct 3 public involvement meetings. But unfortunately this year, because of the circumstances, so given the unique circumstance of the COVID-19 outbreak, along with our commitments to protecting public health during this national emergency, TxDOT is conducting these public meetings for this year basically virtually to avoid in-person contact. So we are doing them online. We have planned for in-person meetings. We announced in the newspapers. We send letters for elected officials. As of 2 weeks ago, we start sending emails and notification virtually using the help of our PIO office and the communication division in Austin. But at this time, the online format, today's public meeting format, will be in lieu of these in-person public meetings. Hopefully down the road we can do them in person, but this year we have been having that order of stay-at-home order since mid-March at TxDOT, and we are still actually having that order until the end of May, and we are not sure if that order will be extended or not. But before COVID-19 outbreak, virtual public involvement process supported TxDOT efforts to engage the public more effectively by supplementing face-to-face information sharing with technology. So we have used them before, those meetings, online WebExes, but this is the first time we are doing them, and we are not doing the in-person meeting. So this technology is really a platform to inform the public and receive feedback. These basically strategies can create efficiencies in disseminating information and receiving feedback. Like you're going to see right now, you'll be able to display all the exhibits information online. You will be able to review it, provide comments to us by the deadline. It will be the May 25th deadline. And so I see benefit, like I said, there's efficiency and low cost with the technology. There is also improvement in reaching out to basically expanding engagement. Somebody can call in from around the state, from outside the area, from the counties, who usually were not able to participate in the traditional process. There's also improvement in communication collaboration. So virtually here, we have the team I have with me today, basically our area office, Adrienne Chen and her staff at the Wise County area office. I have next, Sarah, let's look at the agenda for the meeting here very quick. As you can see, as part of the safety net, I just mentioned the COVID-19 outbreak, and TxDOT is doing our part here by basically minimizing the interaction, in-person interaction. So this is why we moved the meetings to the virtual public involvement here. And again, to bring me to the TxDOT team, like I said, the area engineer and their staff, they are usually responsible for the construction and the project development process for these projects within their areas. I have my team. I have Sarah Finch. She's a planner. I have Joey Mims and James Lance. They are part of my planning team at TxDOT Fort Worth. Again, my name is Muhammad, and I'm the Advanced Transportation Planning Director for the department. After this introduction, I'll be able to orient you all for basically looking at the projects on a map within the Jack County area. Just very quick here, as you can see, the third agenda item, it's covering Jack, Palo, Pinto County, Erath, and Somervell counties. Today's meeting will be mainly focused for the Jack County projects and the Jack County portion of the rural TIP. This Thursday morning, if you know of anybody who would like to listen to this information and benefit from it, they can actually join us on this Thursday morning at 10 a.m. for the Palo Pinto County meeting, and for Erath and Somervell, it's going to be at 2 p.m. on Thursday also. Literally, they are identical presentation, except in everyone we're allocating some time for the specific projects within these counties to go over. Now, it's part of my nature and the way I do presentation. I like to provide background information above and beyond. So the average, basically, person who's listening to this, they can go and see the planning documents at TxDOT website. They can understand the background of this rural transportation improvement program. We're talking about at Jack County, but we are part of a big region. The Fort Worth district is doing business within 9-county area. So there are 9 county areas. There's 5 counties are located within the urbanized area under the North Central Texas Council of Government jurisdiction. So they are the ones who are responsible in leading the efforts of the preparation of a transportation improvement program within the urbanized area. But us as the Fort Worth district here, we are responsible for the preparation of the rural TIP program within the 4 county areas, Jack, Palo Pinto, Erath, and Somervell. And this is part of this effort for us. The TIP in the urbanized area, the rural TIP in the rural area of the state, which is actually defined as the area outside the urbanized area where you have population less than 50,000 people. Over 50,000, it's going to be called urbanized area, and you have to have an MPO there. So I'll explain this planning document, the STIP, the UTP, the statewide long-range transportation plan, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, just defining these documents where you can find them. And then at the end, I'm going to remind all of you, please, to send us comments online. It's going to be via email or by mail. And either way, we'll be able to get your comments. The deadline on these comments is going to be May 25th. So anything which is basically received or postmarked by May 25th, comments, concerns, additional needs, support letters, or actually criticism. I think we think that the public involvement can and will add value to our project development process, project planning. So next, Sarah, let's move into the presentation actually. So this is very quick definition. What the rural TIP, and I've defined it before. There's 3 key points, takeaways from this slide, literally. It's telling you it stands for the rural TIP, Rural Transportation Improvement Program. It's a 4-year program. We call it in the language of transportation, it's a short term. 4 years is not a long term. We have short term less than 4 years. We have mid-term when we do the Unified Transportation Program, which is 10-year document. And we have the long-range plan, which is 20 plus years, usually a longer term. And the third bullet here on the slide, we are covering fiscal year 2021 all the way to fiscal year 2024. Now, the fiscal year in the state of Texas starts on September 1st every fiscal year, ends usually by the end of August. And we are hoping that this plan, and this is what I call it a draft plan, because we can modify it and change it. We have about 60 days process starting with these meetings. You are going to be able to provide us comments by May 25th. Me and my team will look at every single comment, working with area offices, area engineers, and our district administration in trying to modify, change projects, improve the list, improve the maps, and basically later on by mid-July, we have to submit the final revision and changes to this draft rural TIP plan to Austin, where they're going to conduct public involvement at the state level for the whole document, which is the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. And then from there, they will be sending it to FHWA in the fall. Our goal is to get this document approved by FHWA by or before December 2020. Next, Sarah. This is actually, it's telling you another definition of what's rural. It's a statewide, it's a prioritized projects included in the state. It's 4 years time frame, fiscal year 21 to 24. It must be consistent. This is what I'm defining. It must be consistent with the long-range statewide transportation plan for the rural area of the state. It must be consistent if we are doing a TIP. The TIP must be consistent in the urbanized area with the metropolitan transportation plan prepared by our MPO, North Central Texas Council of Governments, in cooperation and collaboration with the Fort Worth District and the transit providers, the general public, all stakeholders. They have a public involvement process also for the transportation improvement program. And all these urban and rural portions of the STIP, it's required under FHWA. If you see chapter or title 23 of United States Code and title basically 49 of United States Code for the transit project. So we are required by law to conduct this process. But at Fort Worth District, we have a culture of working with our communities because we believe that this will be adding value to our project development process and minimize delays down the road in the project development if we can get enough comments and feedback on this project. Next, Sarah, please. Okay, this is again, as you can see under Title 49, it's saying each state is required to develop a statewide transportation improvement program. This really from the transit portion, but from the FHWA side, you see the next point is saying STIP is 4-year program, and it has to be including not only highways. You can use sidewalk projects, ADA ramp project, basically, American with Disabilities Act ramps, shoulder widenings, overlay projects, safety, bridge projects. So all of the above, these projects can be, and if you are looking for federal or state funding or local funding, they must be included in the STIP. Therefore, the STIP at the end of the day, it has to be approved by FHWA for highway project and FTA for public transportation projects for transit. Next, please. Okay, very quick here from the Texas Administrative Code. Every TxDOT district must prepare a public involvement plan and the process for their district. So this plan usually it gets prepared or updated once every 5 years. So as you can see, it requires that we have to issue notices to inform the public of the availability of the proposed rural TIP meeting. Later on, I'll be able to show you when did we do the announcement, who got letter, who got invited. And as of a couple weeks ago, when we knew that we're not going back to work at the offices in person before the end of May, we moved these meetings to the virtual public involvement meetings. So we did our best to invite statewide emails by our communication divisions, our public information offices. We must be informing the public in these notices that there will be a public meeting, their locations, their addresses. We have to provide the information needed for them to be able to look at the projects, look at their limits, look at their descriptions, their scope, their cost, the time for the delivery of this project, and provide us comments. And basically, the request also, it's required in Texas Administrative Code. We need these comments in writing for us to be able to use it as part of our public official record for this public involvement. This documentation must go with the STIP to Austin and then later on to go to FHWA for review when approval of this document is expected by this fall, basically no later than December, hopefully. So any concern, issues you have with the project list, comments, something, please send us things in writing within 10 days after those meetings. In the case today, you're getting more than 10 days, but from this Thursday, it's going to be May 25th is the deadline for receiving comments on these projects and the project list. Next, please. This is very quick. This is our policy in compliance with everything I mentioned in the previous slide. We usually send letters to elected officials a month before the meetings, 3 to 4 weeks. 3 weeks before the meetings, we announced in the newspaper. I will show you this announcement later. Let's have the next portion of the policy, Sarah. This is where exactly you see the invitation. All selected and appointed officials within these areas, they were invited by formal letter sent to them and mailed to them. The materials we have in the past, in the past we have shared basically displays and maps and tables and information. Now I have it all on the website under the links provided as part of this PowerPoint presentation for you to be able to review and provide comments. And again, like I said, you're going to see multimodal projects. You'll see sidewalks and bridges, and it does not have to be just FHWA project or highway project. Now, one thing to mention very quick, I will be going over the UTP a little bit because funding category 4, sometimes we use in rural areas. It has to go through the UTP process. The UTP is Unified Transportation Program documents. It's usually approved by Texas Transportation Commission by the end of August of every year. And usually it's a document guides the project development process at TxDOT. So the commission will be able to assign different what we call strategies or development authority level. Construct authority will be assigned for the first 4 years of the 10 years UTP. And usually from year 5 through year 10, sometimes they get development authority as basically D, development authority, and then plan authority. Usually it goes outside the 10 years window. But the commission usually will determine which type of authority they will be authorizing this project at. And when it's approved by the end of August, it's become the official document for the year. And we can follow it in doing changes to the STIP and even letting schedule sometimes following and consistent with the UTP. And the UTP usually is consistent with the long-range transportation plan. Next, please, Sarah. Okay, this is very quick. This is where in the legal portion of these following newspaper, you starting with Dublin Citizen all the way to Mineral Wells Index there, we have included these announcements. The publication dates were all the way from Thursday, April 16 to Saturday, April 18, and the announcements were appearing in both languages, in Spanish and English. And just to let you know, 2 weeks ago, we started with this effort of the visual public involvement processes. We have our communication division in Austin and our public information office at the district. They have basically sent a press releases and emails to stakeholders of TxDOT who are interested in participating in the public involvement process. So we have done this. We are not perfect. I apologize here for the change in the last 2 weeks, but this is in order to comply with the stay-at-home order by the state and by our executive director. I cannot go and do meetings in person as of now. As of the end of May, we cannot do this. And we have a deadline we try to comply with. I usually love to go to the country and basically meet the public, talk to them about issues, concerns, and something that has been part of my journey for the past 5 years. But at this year, we are going to have to live with this technology and do it as basically virtual public involvement. Next, Sarah. This is very quick. You can see here we have 9 counties shown on the screen. Starting from the top right, you see Wise, where Adrian, again, she's the area engineer for Wise and Jack. We have Wise, we have Tarrant, we have Parker, we have Johnson, and we have Hood counties. They are part of the MPO, what we call Metropolitan Planning Organization of the North Central Texas Council of Governments. So COG will be usually leading the efforts of transportation improvement program for these counties, plus other counties within Dallas District, and there is 1 county from Paris District. They're done under the Metropolitan Planning Area called the Urbanized Area. We are here today as a TxDOT district to conduct the rural transportation improvement program. So your upper left, you'll see the map for Jack County. Beneath that one, you can see Parker County. Beneath that, you can see Erath. And then farther to the east, you can see Somervell County. So these meetings for today, this morning, is going to be focused on Jack County. For the meetings on Thursday morning, is going to be focused on Palo Pinto County, which is part of the area office located at Parker County there. And Erath and Somervell, basically, they are both counties are having the same virtual public meeting on Thursday in the afternoon. So if somebody misses the meeting today and would like to hear more info, the same info, they can join us either at 10 a.m. in the morning on Thursday or at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Next, please. Okay, this is very quick, a simple map showing all these projects mapped on the Jack County map. So this is the projects. You're going to see about 20 of them with different colors. You can see from the 281 there, the red color, to see the pink there, to purple color, to see the green color, the blue. Look at the legends in the lower right of your screen. You can see there's different fiscal years for these projects. So if it's a red, it's coming up. It means that Adrienne and her team and our basically district staff, they are busy working on this in order to deliver these projects by August of next year. So fiscal year 21 starts September 1st this year, all the way to August 31st. Now, let me just qualify this statement. Projects can be moved up and down within the 4 years window. While we are trying to put them or place them in the correct fiscal year, we have them hopefully with the correct scope, the correct limits, but all of these subject to change. Things can happen in the field, priorities may change, so projects can move up and down within the 4 years window. But as of now, I'll be able to show you in the next few slides, specific date when we are planning to deliver these projects, assuming that all the project development process is completed on time for us to go and lead these projects on time. See their fiscal year 21, 22, 23, and 24. So this kind of rule RTIP is covering all the way and through fiscal year 24, August. September 1st, 2025 will be part of future plans, but this one covering these 4 years. So I want you just to look at the number associated with these maps and these projects. You can see limits, you can see colors, and you see numbers. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is, you may not be able to see it here, but you can view them at a larger size on the website. But let me just orient you what's out there. There is about this slide and the next one will be showing you 20 projects. Starting from the left column there, there is a number. This number is what was shown on the map on the previous slide. So project number 1 was shown there in color, and it's saying it's going to late in fiscal year 21. You go from left to right, this is something we call a TxDOT CSJ or controlling CSJ. This is like a social security number we are using for our projects within our internal TxDOT system. So all the information in our systems are stored using these construction section jobs, the column basically 2 and 3. This is the fiscal year after that. I'm starting from left to right, so please. Estimated lead date is telling you by May 2021, we are planning to lead that number 1 project. The highway is going to be State Highway 59. It gives you the project class, it gives you the project limit from and to. Now, if it's a bridge or a road, it gives you just the location where the project is, like if you have just one location. And if you see the final 2 columns, there is a funding category and there is construction estimate. So based on the scope of work for that work, and based on the funding category, the colors of money we are using to fund this project, that funding category, I will be talking about it in a little bit. It gives you who is responsible for the project selection in that funding category and what type of work you can do. This kind of construction estimate, you do very preliminary estimate early on. As you come closer, you can update these estimates and validate them more. So this is what we need you to look at this list, project by project. You look at their scopes, their limits, their estimates, their funding categories, and let us know if you have any comments on them. If you don't have any comments or something, we appreciate any comments you send us. If it was criticizing the process or supporting the process, if you like the project and you support it, if you would like us to expand limits or maybe delay a project or advance another one, please let us know. And let's go to the next slide, please, Sarah. This is, again, the rest of the projects in Jack County. I just wanted this time to orient you to the number 11 and 12. They are really using category 4. As you recall earlier, I have defined what does the Unified Transportation Program, the 10 years document, which is usually approved before the end of August by the Commission. It does include all the category 4 projects. It has to go through the Commission to be funded by the Commission. All these major, actually they are like investment intensive, a lot of money we spent on those Cat 4 money. So they go through the UTP process. That's why I will explain the UTP again more. So funding category 4. You see category 1 and 11, like I mentioned earlier, the Fort Worth district usually have more saying in this project selection, working with the stakeholders, the local level, the area offices, and the administration at the Fort Worth district. So as you can see, mainly in your areas, you're going to see funding category 1, 11, 4, category 6 for the bridges. Sometimes you see bridges, I think in the previous slide. And sometimes you have safety projects, which is category 8. Let's move next, Sarah. Now for our purpose this morning, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Palo Pinto County project, just to let you know, this is similar map to the previous one, using project limits from and to, and the project numbers there, the fiscal year by which we are planning to let these projects in, basically 21 through 24. Next, Sarah. This is the same thing, the project list within Palo Pinto County area. I will cover this on this Thursday in the morning at 10 a.m. As you can see, there's projects for here, category 6, if you see the last one, 15 and 16. So you see like there's bridges. So you have to use funding category 6. And TxDOT, basically bridge division in Austin. They are managing the bridge program statewide. They look usually at the health of these bridges. If do we need to replace it? Do we need to rehab it? They look at sufficiency ratings. They look at all kinds of information and they prioritize the projects. And so they can fund the bridge projects. So next, Sarah, please. This is again a similar map for the Erath County project. We will be presenting this at 2 p.m. this Thursday. Again, you can listen to the same information and you can see the colors of the projects there and the fiscal year, the planning fiscal year by which we are planning to let this project. Next, Sarah, please. This is actually the project list for Erath County and Somervell. You see there's category 4 there on the list. I'm looking to extreme right for the categories. You see 4, you see 1, you see 6 for the bridges. You see category 8, that number 7 project, it's a safety project. So funded by category 8 by basically TxDOT Safety Division in Austin. We used to call it Traffic Operations Division with our commission commitment to safety and trying to basically implement Mission Zero by 2050 to eliminate the crashes in our roadway. The commission is putting a lot of money into safety projects. So basically funding category 8 will be basically telling you that these projects are funded to improve safety along these roadways. Next, Sarah. Could be sidewalk or expansion shoulder. This is again number 11, 12. They are category 6, which is bridges. You see the last two, project 16 and 17 on the slide at the bottom there. They are bridge projects. Next, Sarah. This is Somervell County. We have a project here. We have several studies. They are ongoing now. And if they lead to projects for construction, those projects will be incorporated in this document down the road. Next, Sarah. This is the project we have. It's funded as category 1 right now. It's on SM 51 for Somervell County. Like I said, the meeting today for Erath, but I thought just to use the rest of these slides to illustrate the different funding categories like the sources and uses of funds. Who is responsible for the project selection? How does TxDOT put the program together, working with stakeholders, area offices, and others who are identifying the needs? And then we look at the funding and we do the programming process, which is actually matching the available funding with our needs. So we have to prioritize the projects in order to get them into the 4 years STIP document. Next, Sarah, please. Okay, this is this slide, and a lot of people will say too much information here, but let me tell you very quick. It's going to take a minute for you to be expert in this business here. You're starting from the left side, that column, it tells you that in order to have a project in the STIP, there must be a need to fix a problem, to fix a safety issue, to widen a shoulder, to do an overlay for a roadway, to repair pavement somewhere, to widen a bridge, rehab a bridge. So literally, those needs can be identified by elected officials, appointed officials at the front line, our area offices, our district administration, subject matter experts. They look at all of the above. So TxDOT, local entities, stakeholders can be involved in defining the needs. What do we need to do and to fix? Then the project selection, I just mentioned that earlier. This is where TxDOT partner with our local governments, elected officials, the MPOs in urbanized areas, the rural planning organization in some parts of the state. We have rural planning organization we consult with on these projects. We get our projects. We try to match available funding with our needs, because we have to have financial constraints subject to the STIP document, because we cannot basically program projects we cannot deliver. So we have to deliver what we can afford. TTC stands for Texas Transportation Commission. They get involved with the major funding categories, like in this case, but they get in funding category 2 and the 12. There are strategic funding categories by the commission. You see the Council of Governments in urban areas. We work always with public transit providers to identify projects for transit purposes, for air quality, for other stuff. This is where the funding now. You have your needs, you got your stakeholders, the people who are working with the project selection. Then all of us, we work together in looking at federal money, state money, there is local money. This is the top 3 is the most important. Previously, in the past 10, 15 years ago, I've been with the department for about 20 years. We did use toll in urbanized areas before. We did financing, like, for example, State Highway 130 in Austin. TxDOT basically did, and they financed the toll road by TxDOT. We did pass-through financing before. This is different innovative financing techniques were right before. Before the past, like 5 years, those tools are not being utilized, and we don't have them available to us at this time. But I just keep them here just to let you know we have used these tools before around the state. Actually, Parker County has used a lot of pass-through financing. Now, the planning process. This meeting, as you can see, if you see the lower where we have a planning process there, you see the STIP and the TIP. It deals with the statewide transportation improvement program. Like I said, STIP, think about it, it has 2 components. The rural one, which we are doing today, and we are responsible for it as the TxDOT district. The urbanized side of it, the 5 other counties within our district, the process there is conducted by the MPO, North Central Texas Council of Governments. These 2 documents will be sent to Austin by mid-July this year. They are finalizing their document at the COG level, working with us, working with other local governments and the transit providers. We are working with our communities and the stakeholders and the area offices. We will be finalizing this document by mid-July. Between July and the end of August, Austin will be conducting the public involvement on the STIP statewide. And so the rural TIP and the urban TIP, they get together to have the STIP statewide. The STIP will be sent to FHWA for their review and approval by September. Usually it takes about 90 days. By September, we think that all these projects, which they are submitted under the STIP, hopefully should be approved by the FIT before the end of the year. Now, the last 2 columns you look here, this is where the fun stuff for Adrienne and her team. Adrienne, like I mentioned again, she is our area engineer at Wise and Jack County. This is the project development process. This is the process which we are following at the department using our policies, our manuals, like design manuals, our like environmental document preparations, like what we call NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, requiring us every time we do transportation project to prepare an environmental document to show and assess the impacts of our investment in transportation on the environment, on the human environment, on the man-made environment. So we have to look at this. Some of them are simple, take 6 months to a year. Others may take you 1.5 years to 2. So there could be type of environmental document, can be categorical exclusion document. It can be an environmental assessment document, or it can be an EIS, what we call environmental impact statement. It depends only on the significance of the impact of this transportation projects on the human and man-made environment. Then public involvement is a key for us because, trust me, neither Adrienne nor myself or my district engineer like to deliver a project in a community where we don't have the support for it. So public involvement is essential part of our process, if it was for the rural TIP or for any project we are conducting within the department. It takes us forever sometimes, 3-4 years to deliver a project. We are making sure that we're trying to deliver the right projects to the right community at the right time and the right place. So this tells you the importance of the public involvement. So we conduct public involvement at the project level. We do sometimes for significant project, if it was like 281, or you do like what we call Super 2 or Project 380 or other projects. These type of projects usually, we have to do like schematics, what we call. We have to do preliminary schematics for us to be able to conduct public involvement, evaluating the geometrics of the roadway, what we can fit there, how much more right-of-way we may need. Do we need to do right-of-way acquisitions, utilities relocations, and then we can finalize the plans, what we call the construction plans. In order to build a job or a project, you have to finalize what we call final design plans, and then you do this documentation within our system at TxDOT, and you go to the final column where it's construction. I can tell you again, I keep mentioning the area office. The farther you go from left to right, the more involvement you're going to see from your area engineer. I think Adrienne and her team, they meet with the county commissioners, the judges, the traveling public. Please feel free to contact them about specific details and info about this project. But please also don't forget about us to provide us with comments in writing by May 25th. So as you can see in the construction, we go statewide letting in Austin every month. They let the project for, we're trying to procure basically lowest responsive bidder. They have to be capable of delivering the project. They have to be qualified in conducting the construction business. We select them. The commission will be usually approving these projects to these contractors by the end of that month. If we let in September early, then by the commission meeting at the end of the month, we approve these contracts. And then when we finish with the construction, which you know probably takes a year, 2, 3 sometimes, and sometimes maybe taking 4 years to deliver major construction project. And then you do project to close out and you finish everything else, because sometimes you have to have change orders in the field to add value or improve some like improvement in the project. If you have like basically site conditions we were not anticipating or utilities, so you may have to modify project in construction. So next, please. I know it was not easy slide, but this is how it fits. This is actually the fund slide. This is the fund categories I just mentioned before. So from your left there, look at the categories 1 through 12. I just mentioned before, category 1, category 11 there, Fort Worth District is responsible. Look at the middle column there. It's saying project selection responsibility. Our district will be responsible for this. So we work with area offices. We look at pavement scores. We look at the skid scores. We look at the geometrics of the roadways. We look at the shoulders, at the sidewalks. We look at the basically the pavement repair. All these factors will be considered in allocating the funding under Cat 1 and Cat 11. As you see, Cat 2, Cat 4, Cat 12. Texas Transportation Commission is the responsible entity. In Cat 2, for example, the MPO, they have a lot of saying in also project selection within urbanized area, but really everything in the UTP document has to go through Texas Transportation Commission for their review and approval. And so they are always providing the guidance for us for project development in that Unified Transportation Program documents. Look to the right, and if you look to the right, let me just use the case for the funding participation. If you have not dealt with FHWA before or FTA, majority of the transportation projects delivered and they get funded by the Fed on 80-20 participation. So majority of the funding categories there, you can see 80-20. So the Fed will be paying 80%. They will be reimbursing us after completing the work. We submit an invoice. It goes to FHWA. They reimburse us for the work which was completed by the locals or the state. And they will give us 80% of the funding. 20% of that funding will be used as a local match by the state and the local entities. It could be completely only state, 20% like on system projects. It could be 10% state, 10% local, 80% federal. The only 2 categories I just wanted to emphasize for you, if you look at the category 6 for the bridges, you could have the participation 90 and 10. And really this is emphasis on safety. I mean, the bridges and highway bridge program emphasizing safety, saying if it's a bridge repair, we're going to pay 90%. The locals, the state or the local can pay the 10%. Sometimes there is also 80-20 in the bridge. And category 8 for safety, where we have 90 and 10. So the federal money, federal portion of that is going to be 90% of the funding, and the state will be funding it at 10%. Or if you have off-system projects, usually we use like local participation there. Next, please. So this is kind of the color of money funding categories and everything. This is very quick. I covered this slide, but I like to put it in this way. So if you see from the top going all the way down, you start with a 20+ years. The long range, what we call a statewide long range transportation plan. The current plan is 2040. As you know, it's expiring this year. So before the end of this year, they are going to complete the update of the 2040 by the 2050 statewide long range transportation plan. So we're going to have it hopefully this summer or maybe before the fall, the final statewide 2050. We call it basically statewide, as you can see to the left, statewide long-range transportation plan. Then you have the metropolitan and rural plan. They're going to be like 20+ years. Right now, the current plan for the COG area, the urbanized area is 2045 metropolitan transportation plan, and you can see what's included in them. Like usually those plans, they include the strategies, they include the programs, they include the projects. In our area, in the urbanized area, because we are not meeting air quality for ozone, one of air quality criteria pollutant called ozone, we are not meeting it. Therefore, we are subject to more restriction there. If you have added capacity project, you have to tell them how many lanes you have today, and when you're going to expand it to 4 lanes or 6 lanes or something by specific network year. But we don't have the issues in the rural portion of the state. You see in the middle of the cone there you have the UTP, the Unified Transportation Program. So the first 2 of them on the top, they are part of the long-range transportation planning. The Unified Transportation Program it's a document, like I said, it's a midterm document for 10 years. It's approved by the Commission before the end of August. And if you get into the inside, this is where I was kind of shifting the risk to the area office, because this we have all the area office staff on the call this morning. This is where the project development, where we get a consultant or we do the projects in-house. We get people to do the preliminary engineering, the design. We look into the right-of-way. We look into the utilities. We do public involvement for some of those meetings, because if the project is major, we have a bigger public involvement. If you are doing overlay, we're not leaving, it's kind of this involvement, but usually, as you know, there's a traffic control plans in these projects, there's a schedule for construction, when do we start, when we end, and how we are working. So I encourage all of you to reach out to the area offices if you wanted to know more details about the projects. And even in the next 10 days or so, you can probably give us comment based on your communication with them. And then we have usually every year by the end of June, July timeframe, we have something called approving letting schedule. It's a 24 months for projects to be delivered basically during the next 2 years. Like fiscal year 21 and 22, we have to approve this program by like July. And this goes to Austin, and then you will have on TxDOT website all these projects and when we are planning to deliver them within the next 2 years. Now, like I said again, this business of project development is a very messy business. I mean, you could literally just have a scope for a project very simple and you start working and you recognize, no, I have utilities, I need right-of-way, I need different consultants, I need different skill sets, I have to procure other resources. So maybe we shift the project from year 1 or 2 to year 4 to make sure that we can deliver the right projects, basically the right size, the right time, the right funding. And just keep in mind also, the changes in scopes will lead to changes in the financial structure of this document. So we have to look at other projects to deal with change. But we love change because the only constant is change in life, like you know, and we try to manage the best we can. As you can see, we're dealing with virtual public involvement in 2020. I never thought I'll be doing this. So now, if you see the lower limit, the lower left there, this is where we are here today again, to emphasize. All the previous long-range planning, midterm, really a background info. But we are today, we are covering the statewide transportation improvement program this 4 years. COG, they are busy with their TIP. We are busy with our ruler TIP. And those documents will join together by mid-July to go through the process. Next, Sarah. This is, again, a different way to show the project development process I was mentioning. Look at the upper portion of the slide. This is about the plans and programs level. This is my responsibility and my team's responsibility and my administration. where our area office will support us, but the long-range planning, the metropolitan planning, like Adrian, like I mentioned, Wise County is located within the metropolitan planning area. Jack County is within the rural. So she's very important resource for us because she's part of both of them. And then the TIP one, it's done for the urbanized area there. And then you need a federal action. If you see the STIP on upper right there, it has to get a federal action, which is the approval I'm talking about in the fall of this year. We have to get approval from the Fed to be able to start using this funding attached or associated with this project. You see in the middle there, the UTP. It's kind of a long midterm document. We call it a midterm 10 years. You go down there. This is the project development. This is the 4 years, really. Sometimes it can go over 4 years. If you have a major corridor, like you guys been driving like along 35W or something, some of those major projects took us like 5, 7, 8 years to develop. But in rural county area, I think 4 or 5 years usually the time frame. Look at from lower left there, design, which is putting together construction plans for the contractor to be able to build the job. We have what we call plans, specifications, and estimate, how they need to build the job, construction plan, the environmental document. You have to prepare an environmental document. It could be a CE, environmental categorical exclusion, or environmental assessment, or an EIS. It takes federal action. Nowadays, the state of Texas have authority to approve the CEs and EAs, either at the district level or in Austin. EIS still goes to FHWA. Right-of-way acquisition, we have to follow the Uniform Act. If you are using a federal dollars, you have to use all the federal requirements in conducting your business. And so right-of-way acquisition, we usually comply with the Uniform Act in order to acquire land for the purpose of the transportation roadway. It's a process, takes time also. Then the final plan specification and estimate, the construction plan, we finish with it. We go to letting. Letting word, it means we go to contract. Every month in Austin, we have letting, literally Tuesdays and Thursdays, the first week, second week of every month. And when the projects go to letting, this is where federal action happens, what we call obligation of funds. So we submit a request to FHWA. We tell them we are going to letting with this job. Its estimated cost is $4 million. FHWA will send us a letter called Federal Project Authorization and Agreement, which is literally served, like for us, for the stakeholder, it serves the commitment of federal government in participating in that project. So they will take the money and reserve it for that project, waiting for us to do the work, and then later on submit an invoice, and then they can reimburse us with that amount requested fund next year. So this is really planning and project development and slide. This is very quick. It tells you now, I'm done with the plan, got approved, what happens next? Guess what? We start changing it. As soon as we finish this, very quick, this is tells you in the state, we have 25 MPOs. We have about 25 rural TIPs happening, urban and rural ones. But if you see, we have to update this document every 2 years in the state of Texas. Federal requirement is saying you have to update it once every 4, but in the state of Texas, we do this once every 2 years. Look down there. We have 4 opportunities every single year to modify and change projects within the STIP. So when it's approved, it's not final, it's a living document. So you see November, February, May, and August of every year, we can submit request for change. The change can be, let's go next, Sarah. As you can see, I'm not going through this detailed info. I covered enough of this. This is the process how we do amendment to the STIP. I thought to bring it up. You can read it basically yourself and understand how we do the STIP modification and changes. Very quick in summary, when you do changes, you have to think about the consequences and the impacts financially, the impact on other projects. The change in the STIP has to be consistent with the long-range plan and with the UTP and with the environmental documents. And usually this has to go and be approved by FHW or FTA. We have a system called STIP system at TxDOT. And next, Sarah, the things I want to say here, the changes are not all of them are created equal. We have like major changes. The ones you are looking at this slide, there is a project was not federally funded, but we are adding federal money for it. So it's going to be, it has to go through what we call a STIP revision. You add regionally significant state funding. It's a huge project in non-attainment area. We're not meeting air quality. We really have to have a STIP revision. You change the scope, major change in scope, major change in limit, major change in state funding categories. They are requiring us to go and do a STIP revision. It's an official, it's subject to the public involvement. Next, Sarah, please. This is just one thing you need to see. It's a lot of info. So they are telling you if the change in the scope or the cost of the project goes north of $1.5 million, then literally you have to have a STIP revision there, a major change. Or if the cost goes up and beyond 50% of the original cost. Look at the first case, initial cost was $800,000. It got revised to $1,450,000. You don't have to do amendment here. It's not a major change because it did not go above that number by basically over $1.5 million. But look at the last one. The last project was 20 million, went up to 32 million. It went up, that project, for more than 50%. So that one, it must be going through amendment. Let me not to confuse, I have to give you another case there. Like the ones which it goes above the 1.5, and the increase is more than 50% in the original cost, then you have to have a major revision and change. Let's go to the next slide, Sarah, where we see the minor changes. Okay, now again, this is consistency between the planning documents. So the long-range plan, the UTP plan, the midterm, and the STIP has to be consistent. So let's assume that the commission, they go and change the UTP this August by their approval. Then we will be changing the STIP to be consistent with the UTP regarding funding categories and the structure and everything else. Next, please, Sarah. This is the minor, what I call STIP revision. We call it administratively done. The staff can do this with no time. You're changing the CSJ, I mentioned, TxDOT create CSJ. If you are doing changes in estimate, it was like 1 million became 1.2 million, 200,000. We can do this administratively. You can change the letting date. Adrian can call me and say this project is not going to work for 21. We can move it to 2022 with no problem. As long as we work and coordinate with our stakeholder and the area office and everybody else, it's not a major change. And also change from state funding category to another one. Like I used earlier, category 1 and 11. We can switch projects between funding category as long as we are not doing a major change. These changes are administrative changes too. Next, please. You see project limit for state funded project. If it was federally funded, probably we have to have a major change. This is administrative. Saying changes in the TIP year for state funded project. State funding within 4 years window, we can change it with no problem administratively. Changing project scope for state funded. Sometimes federally funded projects, you really have to go through the major change. It depends on the case and the circumstance there. And if you change it from federal funding to non-federal funding, then probably you can do it administratively. But if you try to deal with federal funding, you have to have sometimes major change and revision. Now, this is actually tells you something we call the group statewide project. I will cover in the later slide here. Next, Sarah, please. Look at this. This is really telling you the value of the public involvement. We, as area office, district, planning team, all of the above, we have to make sure that all the transportation partners are kept in loop in our project development and what we are doing, that we are going out there and get feedback and comments. And then also any update we do, like I said, could be a minor or there could be a major amendments or update to the STIP. We have to look at the financial summary and the impacts and the consequences of that change on the rest of the project on the plan. Because this STIP must be financially constrained plan, so we have to evaluate this. So we have to provide accountability and transparency by the state in carrying out our business. If the project funding from this project can move there, we have to consult and share with the public and the stakeholders on that. Next, please. Yeah, now this is my final portion of the presentation, really. Now you have, as you probably know, in rural areas, statewide, we have a lot of safety projects or bridge, rehab, pavement, shoulder widening, sidewalk, bicycle facilities, all these type of projects. If you are not adding what we call adding in new lanes there, then what we call, if it added capacity in non-attainment area, you really have to include those projects individually listed in the STIP document. In our case here, we have something called a grouped projects. You can use one CSJ statewide, and you can put several projects under that. Next, please, Sarah. Look at this list. I know it's very busy, but see the CSJ I mentioned earlier, project CSJ. You have a group, so that type of CSJ will use for preliminary engineering there. And this is kind of the definition, what can be included. So you will have one CSJ statewide, and you can include all this type of work there. So they are pre-approved by Austin. They can program it under what we call a grouped project by funding category. So you have different category, like you have the PE, you have right-of-way, you have preventive maintenance, you have a bridge, you have, so these projects, as long as they are not added capacity, and sometimes the CMAQ, congestion mitigation, air quality, you have to have them individually listed. So there are some requirements, but majority of your projects can be grouped unless they are added capacity project. ITS there, the bottom one, intelligent transportation system. Next, Sarah. This is the rest of them, bicycle, pedestrian. So you can use one number, one CSJ statewide to program that work under that. So you may not be able, the reason I'm emphasizing this, you may not see the 20 projects for Jack County included individually in the STIP document. You're going to have one of those CSJs covering some of these projects. So that's why I'm clarifying this. And this tells you the first note that transportation alternative program, transportation enhancement, CMAQ project, like I just mentioned, they are required basically to be individually listed. I mean, not approved to be grouped basically. So Sarah, next please. Again, this brings me to the end of my presentation, even though taking me a little time, but I really enjoy explaining the process for all our basically communities and the general public. I'm assuming really no previous knowledge for the people in these programs and projects and documents. So I try to use 1 hour of your time this morning to share with you everything. The first thing on this slide, if you go to TxDOT, basically website, www.txdot.gov, and search for the virtual public meetings, you're going to find our handouts. We used to give them handouts, the maps, the projects, the limits. You can either mail us the comments on the address shown there for our Fort Worth district, or you can email it to my email. My team and I, working with the area office and our administration, after May 26th, will start looking at these comments. We will be considering, evaluating, and basically considering every single comments received. Usually we draft letters responding to these comments if we can implement the change and modify the projects, or if we have a reason why the project limit stops there, or the scope is there, or the funding is there. You see the lower portion of the slide is telling you again, reminder with the deadline. It's May 25th, the date for the deadline to provide us comments on the projects within your county. Next, Sarah. This is again, the most important people I want you to know here is the area engineer. So for today, Adrienne Cheng, she's our area engineer. She has a local office within your, basically it's in Wise County. So you can reach out to Adrienne, ask her questions specific about some projects. But please, I need the comments to be sent to me in these postcards or emails or anything by the 25th, and this is her contact info. The rest of them, David Neely and David Fowler, they're area engineers for the other areas. I'll cover those for Thursday. And this literally bringing me to the end of my presentation here for this morning. This is just to summarize what we covered. We covered the ruler tip for basically Jack, and we'll cover Erath and Somervell and Palo Pinto on this Thursday. We are including the material here for the planned and programmed project. We call them a plan because they can change. Programmed means we are matching the available funding with the needs we have. So we don't have enough funding to cover all our needs. The maps will be showing you project location, limits with different colors associated with the fiscal years. You're going to have this PowerPoint I'm using today. This is why I put so much info on it, because PIO and Communication Division will be taking it and posting it on the website, hopefully this week sometime. My hope is by tomorrow afternoon it should be up there, but it may happen sooner. And please, the comments again, this is the final reminder for me. So this is all what I have for this morning. I know I have my team with me, Sarah and Joey and something. Is there anything else, guys, you think? Is there some comment or something I can address very quick. This is the form here, not very good in trying to address every chat and comment. But if we have a few of them, I can take it, Sarah and Joey. So back to you, Sarah. Thank you.
We have no comments or questions at this time.
Excellent. We have no comments and questions. Can we open it up? Can you unmute everybody else and see if somebody is having any comments or question, including our staff at TxDOT, or that you can unmute them and you see if we need anything. Just we have 5 minutes or so to listen. Do we have anything from anybody?
Look at this stuff, and Dora was so much more up on her.
I am unmuting everyone now.
Okay, Sarah. Are you getting anything? Any question? Anything?
Not at this time.
Okay. If I'm
learning. Funny. I mean, I have no idea why I have three tomato plants that look absolutely fantastic 2 weeks ago that have blight now, and then I have others that are looking absolutely fantastic right next to it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it just could be
Sarah, can you mute it back again? Because I can't hear. There's noise back. It's in the background there.
I see a spot that's
yes, I'm working on it.
And I'm just hoping for the best.
Okay, everyone should be muted again.
Okay, so I think I'm hearing noise. Is there somebody asking question, or this is noise in the background, what I was hearing?
That was noise in the background, I believe. I don't see
Okay,
more.
so if you didn't see anybody submitted a chat or something, if there is nothing else there, I would like you guys to go back to your life and work. Everybody waiting for the comments, and the meeting will be adjourned for this morning. So thank you all for being part of our morning here, listening and being interested in the transportation projects. And we will be probably connecting with some of you later on if we get comments and we have to reach out to all of you. Otherwise, please contact our area office for specific questions on the projects, project development, or project construction. Thank you all, and meeting is adjourned here. And my official time here is a little bit 3 minutes after 11 this morning on Tuesday, May 12th. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Bye. Thanks.